Good morning, SDA Academy. Hope you guys have had a great week so far, and I'm sure everyone's looking forward to the weekend. So for today, again, we're just going to have our quick recap. We're going to go through what today's session is. So 3 questions that's going to be asked, which is how often do we need to reassess our program? What tools can we use to best gauge the effectiveness of our program? And is it best to give feedback on a macro or micro basis? Remember, we spoke about the macro and the micro cycles last week. Again, at the end, we just have a couple of requirements for you guys to do for next week. So a quick recap based on the things that we did last week. We talked a lot about our program design and what we need for program design. So we had training principles, so specificity. Is the program specific to the sport that you are doing? And are the exercises that you have chosen, do they correlate to the exercises or the sport itself? Then we've got individualization. Is the program itself individualized? So is it based on one person or a group of people? Okay. Progressive overload. Does the program get more difficult? How often? Your frequency. How often are you training in a week, day, month, and year? Reversibility. How are we going to reverse your detraining effect, right? If you don't train for a long period of time. And then again, we have recovery, very important. Training elements. Okay, we have our warm-up. Remember, we spoke about the ramp method. So you have your warm-up. You have an exercise selection, your exercise order, your volume, your intensity, frequency, rest or recovery periods, and the goals of the program. Okay, so this is pretty much how we're going to lay out our program. We've got the goal of the program. Then what we want is what is going to be the warm-up. Okay, remember the warm-up is ramp, your ramp protocol. What exercises, so your exercise conducted, which exercises are you going to do, how are you going to lay them out, and how you're going to order them, which one's first, second, third, and so on. Then what is the volume, so sets and rep scheme, right, and rest time required. Okay, so this week we're talking about how often do we need to reassess our program. So it's contextually based. Okay, contextually based means based around what's going on around you. Okay, so if, for example, a program is not working for an athlete, okay, so the program doesn't seem to be working for an athlete, then we need to reassess that. We need to reassess either the program or the athlete. We need to reassess the idea of why it's not working for that person in particular. And then we review, we revise, and that's when we plan again, right? We plan to make sure that that athlete in particular can do it, and then the circle starts over. Again, a lot of the time it's based on the athlete, the sport, and the sporting calendar. When you need to reassess can also depend on the sport. If something like COVID-19 happens and we've developed our sport in a certain manner, and now we are unfortunately in lockdown or quarantine, how are we going to reassess the program to make sure that the athletes can continue to work hard, and then hopefully when they come back still be at an elite level to train? This is when we all need to think about the reassessment part of our programs. Okay, it doesn't happen on particular times. It has to be planned, or it cannot be planned in the sense that you can't always have it at particular dates. It has to be done effectively through communication, which we'll talk about on the next slide. Okay, so what tools can we use to best gauge the effectiveness of our program? So the 3 that really stand out for me is communication. Okay, we are always communicating with our athletes or our coaches. Testing protocols are things that we've done before, okay, we've spoken about before, and questionnaires. So communication, that's the first thing we do with our athletes. We communicate with them. And we've got a communication cycle right here. Okay, so the sender or the coach needs to portray a message, and that message needs to create some sort of transmission or noise, whether it is me speaking to you, whether it's through an email, through a message. That is the transmission. You as a receiver needs to receive the message and understand it, and then from there you give feedback to me. And so that is how the communication cycle works. Okay, to me that is probably the best one there is. It's extremely effective. Okay, that is a very good tool because the athlete knows how their body is reacting to the program. Okay, and this is an easy example of how we talk about communicating with our athletes as well, or a questionnaire even, is we say on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you feel like that workout was? Was it a 6? What is an 8? That's how we can think about it. And then testing protocols. Remember, we spoke about a testing battery. So this is what we call velocity-based training over here. So it's a form of testing that we can use with our athletes based on what our athletes have communicated with us, as well as what we've got from a questionnaire, and we've got the data from technology. We can then see if our program is indeed effective. Now, is it best to give feedback on a micro or macro basis? Okay, my question to you guys is, why not give feedback on a daily basis? Okay, you always need to give some sort of feedback on a certain aspect at a different time. Okay, so as you can see throughout in this picture, there is theoretically feedback based on the exercise the athlete is doing. The athlete will give the coach feedback based on what he or she is feeling throughout the exercise. That's feedback. Okay, then we can start looking at, when we get certain feedback, we go back and we say, okay, we need feedback based on these three. Okay, your communication, testing protocols, and your questionnaires. Once we've got feedback from them, then we can really understand, okay, maybe we can give other feedback on a micro or macro basis. Okay, and again, it's all contextual based. When do you give daily feedback? Okay, daily feedback normally happens when you're talking about your questionnaires and communication. That's your daily feedback. When we start looking at your testing protocols, that's when we start looking at the macro basis to see if the program that we've been doing over the last month, 2 months, is working the way we need it to work. And then requirements for next week. I want you guys to design a testing battery and a questionnaire based on your sport, okay, and how you would use it to reassess your program. Again, if you guys need any help, please do not hesitate to ask, and we'll do the best to help you guys. And remember, the internet has got all the answers already. Okay, have a good weekend, guys.